Welcome to Left, Right and Centre. I'm Vishnu Shubh on the program today. It is an exciting day for those enthusiasts on the Indian space program. I'm one of them, and I must admit the choice of topic for me was quite easy. That's because we've got Shukla, India's astronaut, up in the space station. That's him over there. That's him over there as well. And that's just great news, isn't it? Because we've got our space ambitions. We've got so much to hope for. We've got Gaganyaan, our own crewed mission that comes up in 2028. But today was a great moment when the four from the Crew Dragon craft finally emerged after it docked with the International Space Station. Shukla is going to be there for 14 days with the rest of his crew. The experience that he gains will be invaluable. He will, of course, be telling other members of the Gaganyaan team what that's going to be all about. Now, he may not be flying on that Gaganyaan mission, chances are he won't, but it's a great occasion for an Indian. Remember, it's been 41 years since we've had an Indian on a space station. The last one, Rakesh Sharma, on the Soviet space station, Mir, 41 years back. So absolutely incredible. What we can do is give you this story on the incredible developments today.
हम लॉन्च कर रहे थे तो मेरे स्पेस सूट पे तिरंगा मेरे शोल्डर्स पे था.
Floating into the space station, stepping into history and legend. Air Force pilot Shukla wrote a historic new chapter in the country's space exploration story as he became the first Indian to float into the International Space Station. Gleaming with big smiles, Shubhanshu and his team of 4 astronauts entered the space station at about 6 p.m. Indian time after a 28-hour journey into space. Axiom 4's journey began at 12:01 p.m. on Wednesday, when SpaceX's Falcon 9 rocket blasted off from Launch Complex 39A at the Kennedy Space Center in the United States. The 4-member crew were greeted by the existing 7-member crew at the International Space Station with big smiles, hugs, and welcome drinks.
So I am number 634. That's a privilege. No, but to be fair, it is a privilege to be amongst the few who have got the chance to see the Earth from a vantage point that I have been able to see now. It has been a wonderful ride. It has been great, and I was looking forward to come to space. It is something to look forward to as such. But the minute I entered the International Space Station and you guys, this crew, you just made me feel so welcome, as if you literally opened your doors, like your house doors for us. That's true. So, but it was fantastic. I feel even better. Whatever expectation I had of coming here, they were surpassed by the view. Of course, that's the big part of it, but by you guys as well. So thank you so much. I think this was fantastic. This is wonderful, and I'm very, very confident that the next 14 days are going to be amazing, doing, as you said, advancing science and research and working together. Thank you so much.
The 4 then lined up for a photo op, drinking liquids from a foil packet. Together, they all now make the Space 11 at the International Space Station. Earlier in the day, the capsule carrying the 4 astronauts docked at the space station at about 4 p.m. The fascinating process of docking and the crew entering the space station was beamed live across the world. Shukla's proud parents watched their son write history with tears in their eyes, prayers on their lips, and pride in their heart.
अब ये अंदर चले गए, अब कोई दिक्कत नहीं।
क्या कुछ कहना चाहेंगे? अब कोई दिक्कत नहीं है, बेहद खुश है। अब 14 दिन बाद उनका इंतजार रहेगा वापसी का।
14 वापसी का इंतजार रहेगा कि जल्दी से आए, जल्दी से मिले आके हम लोगों से।
ये बहुत ही अहम पड़ाव था, उसके लिए उसने जो है अच्छी तरह उसने मेहनत करके जो भी सक्सेस प्राप्त की है, उसके लिए हम बहुत खुश हैं और बच्चे पर गर्व है, हमें पूरा अपने बच्चे पर गर्व है।
The International Space Station will now be Shukla and Co.'s home for the next 14 days, where they will conduct experiments before returning to Earth.
Astronaut Group Captain Shubhanshu Shukla created history for India, becoming the first Indian to visit the International Space Station. After a long journey, he will now spend 14 days at the International Space Station, conducting several experiments. But this is really the beginning of the Indo-US partnership in space. Beyond this, coming up is the NASA ISRO synthetic aperture radar satellite, the world's single most expensive Earth imaging satellite ever made. India and America exploring space together. And Group Captain Shubhanshu Shukla lays the first firm steps for India's Gaganyaan program. With Vishnu Som in New Delhi, Pallav Bagla for NDTV.
All right, so Pallav with me. Pallav, we can all breathe.
Yes, we can, finally.
It's been several weeks,
Yes.
3 weeks plus of delays. Then the mission went up and it worked after it blasted off. It was all flawless and so far it seems good. What is Shubhanshu Shukla going to be doing on the International Space Station?
Right now he must be sleeping. His first night at the International Space Station to enjoy a sleep more than in the Crew Dragon. It would be an outstanding feeling to do that in microgravity. Not easy.
Yeah.
He was not feeling well. He also said that he was having a heavy head, which is normal. Space sickness is normal, but they settle down. He has a flight surgeon or a doctor attached to him, Dr. Punna Slok Biswal. He will take care of him. But now the heavy load and work begins.
Yeah.
They have over a 12.5-hour schedule for every day where every minute is chalked out. And he will be doing 7 India-specific experiments. They are fairly basic experiments. India is doing astrobiology for the first time, so we couldn't have expected very complicated ones. He's also going to be doing 5 human biology experiments which are NASA ISRO specific. The details of that have not been revealed at all.
Why?
I do not know why, but they have not been revealed. That's going to be done between NASA and ISRO. There are 2 outreach events and 1 talk with a VIP. I leave that to you. For you to guess.
For guessing
no
who
prizes
that is.
for guessing.
Yeah.
But it's going to be a packed 14-day. He will have to spend time. His body clock has been adjusted to what is called London time or Greenwich Mean Time, because the space station works with that.
I see.
All of them. Countries have decided they will work with Greenwich Mean Time. So his body clock in the quarantine itself was adjusted to that. And now really the hard work begins. But this is really the first step for India's Gaganyaan program, because he's going to bring back experience which will contribute to India's massive leap in space, which is to send an Indian from India. So he's learning, and he said these are the first firm steps for India's Gaganyaan. He's very young, he's 39. He's going to be bringing back lots of wisdom. Alongside, India did send Group Captain Prashant Balakrishnan Nair. He's as a backup. He's 9 years older. It was the oldest of the lot of the 4. So India chose correctly the oldest and the youngest. He was the backup. The youngest will give a lot of things, and Prashant Balakrishnan Nair also must have imbibed and soaked in everything. All of that will contribute to our human space flight program. End of the day, India wants to be ready if there is ever a need for humans to leave Earth and colonize someplace. India should never be left behind.
Who will India's Gaganyatris be on Gaganyaan? Will it be Shubhanshu Shukla?
No,
given
see,
his experience, or how does that process
see,
go?
it's a very tricky process. Being an astronaut is a very risky business. Group Captain Shukla has become an astronaut in less than 4 years after selection. Mostly astronauts spend about 8 to 10 years on Earth before they become astronauts and before they are able to fly. So within a year of getting his wings, he has become an astronaut. So on the Gaganyaan program, it could be one of these 4. It has to be one of these 4 because they have been trained, they are test pilots. All countries, whenever they do first-time vehicles, they send test pilots because they have the skills of navigating and managing issues if they happen. So it will be one of them. It could be any. It could be Angad, it could be Krish, it could be Prashant Balakrishnan Nair, it could be Group Captain Shukla, who could be, I'm sure at that time when we choose, it would be the right person.
It's just basic question. Gaganyaan first mission, is it just one astronaut?
Right now, what India has said, the capsule which is being developed for Gaganyaan can carry up to 3 astronauts. So India has said we'll send up to 3 astronauts for up to 1 week. That is the plan. But my own instinct is it could be 1 or 2, and it could be well for 3 days. Because you don't want to take a risk, but you don't want to send a single person also, because you need a buddy. So it could be 1 or 2, because the more people you have in the experimental vehicle, the higher the risk, but you need also a buddy. So this is just the beginning. Gaganyaan, as of now, the plan is in 2027 to have the first human space flight from Sriharikota, and then the plan is to have another crewed flight. And then the Bharatiya Antariksh Station is likely to come up, so there will be to and fro traffic, and then Indian on the moon. See, when Wing Commander Rakesh Sharma went up, it was a one-off mission. So Group Captain Ravish Malhotra never got a chance, whereas right now there are 4 candidates. They all have a chance to become astronauts sooner than later.
Yeah, if not in the first, then subsequent missions.
Yes, because it's now a full program, and it's going to continue for many years. And that's definite. So they will get an opportunity, and they're already starting the process of selecting a fresh crop of astronauts. And that could be non-test pilots, because by then you would have matured.
Should I apply?
Oh, you should, I'm sure.
All right, we'll leave it over there. Pallav and I might be headed to space at some stage or the other, be that as it may. We did have some wonderful conversations throughout the day with extraordinary astronauts. Let's take a look. So, a fantastic day for so many people in India looking at the Indian space program and its future. We've got our first astronaut in an international space station in 41 years. The last time around, Rakesh Sharma was on Mir, the Soviet space station, all those decades back. Joining us now, Clayton Anderson and Dr. Ayman Jahangir. Thank you both very much for being with us. Clayton Anderson, in the context of India, a nation which has distinct space aspirations, just getting an astronaut on board the International Space Station, how do you see this to be important?
Well, having international participation in space is incredibly important. Shubhanshu, congratulations to him and congratulations to the nation of India for being able to successfully place him into orbit on the International Space Station. I'm extremely jealous and envious of the entire crew, not just Shubhanshu. But this is a big deal. And in order for the Earth to move away, or for humans to move away from the Earth and perhaps go to Mars, I think it will be a very international effort, a collaboration effort, if you will. The United States simply can't do it on its own. So congratulations to ISRO and all the folks in India.
Right. Dr. Jahangir, what we do know is that Shubhanshu Shukla had a touch of space sickness. What's that all about?
Yeah, so it's actually quite common for astronauts when they get into orbit to have a little space sickness, which is feeling a little nauseated and maybe even vomiting. Typically, it lasts about 3 days, and the reason it occurs is because what your eyes are seeing is different than what your inner ear is telling you. So here on gravity, which is what humans know and where we live, it all works well together. But when you get to space, that can be a little unusual for your body to adjust to. So it's not surprising, especially someone like Captain Shukla, who is an Air Force pilot who has lots and lots of experience flying. It's not uncommon. So I'm not surprised that happened, but he will be feeling better, I'm sure, pretty quickly.
But how do you fix that? Or it just goes away?
So yeah, it does just go away after a couple of days. Your body readjusts, but there are medications that astronauts do take when they get into space that can help. Just like if you were to get motion sickness on a boat, same kind of idea.
You know, Mr. Anderson, one of the most amazing parts of what we saw today was the high-resolution footage every moment of Crew Dragon coming in and then docking with the International Space Station. That's something that's completely changed the entire space experience, hasn't it, for people around the world? Perhaps will add to enthusiasm for watchers around the world who would otherwise have thought space as being, it's been there, it's been happening for a while, been there, done that in a sense, but it adds a new dimension, I would suggest.
It does. And first, let me tell Shubhanshu that motion sickness and all that will go away. And I feel his pain. But with respect to the technology on board, in 2007, our cameras were nowhere near as good. Our video wasn't even high definition, which is why you don't see any much video from me in my time in space, because it was all low definition. I actually did the first high definition footage.
Oh, how interesting.
In 15 and 16. So, and the other cool thing for these guys is they're there during a solar maximum period, a high activity of solar particles and stuff hitting the magnetic field of the Earth. So they're getting to see beautiful auroras. They get to capture them with high definition video. They're taking pictures with cameras with much better lenses, with much higher pixels in the camera. I mean, it's very cool, and people do respond to that. It's bringing it home to the people of India, to the people of the United States. That's how you get support for your space program. That's how you're able to move forward and do more things.
Dr. Jahangir, are you enthusiastic about India's own space program? Because what we've got coming up in 2028 and is an entirely homegrown effort at getting an astronaut into space on an Indian rocket, on an Indian orbiter. That's a huge jump technology-wise, but they seem to be set to do it, and the tests seem to be progressing well.
I will say, you have to remember that only 3 countries in the world to date have had their own homegrown program. So for India to do it, which they're doing within the next 5 to 10 years, even talking about having a space station, is incredible. ISRO is making great strides. And Captain Shukla being up on the space station with this 2-week mission is going to gain a lot of experience of what it means to actually be in space, that he can then bring back and inform the people of India and inform the scientists and engineers at ISRO as about how to make both the spacecraft and the space station, more useful and beneficial for everyone. So this is vastly important. It is a 2-week mission. It's not a 6-month mission, but even in those 2 weeks, that experience that Captain Shukla is going to have is going to be immensely important for India going forward in their own program.
Mr. Addison, the status of India's Gaganyaan program, that's what we call our crewed mission. It is at a fairly advanced stage. We've got the rocket. We've made lots of progress in rocketry. It'll be a variation of the GSLV rocket. We've already done one pad abort test. They want to do another test at a higher altitude, and they are working at habitability of the capsule itself. And then they've got ambitions for a space station in 2035. And they seem to be getting there. Is there almost a sense of disbelief among people who you speak to that, is India really doing this? And are they doing this at the cost at which they claim to be doing this? Because it's extremely expensive, besides being extremely difficult.
Well, Astro Clay talks about the 3 Ds of spaceflight, right? It's dangerous, it's difficult, and it costs dollars. And those are always something we need to keep in mind. Being safe, doing this safely is important. We've done it before. We did it back in the 60s in America. We're doing it again now, but we're doing it with better technology, which hopefully makes all of this safer for everyone. I would caution ISRO to just move forward slowly, carefully, smartly, and do the tests that are required to prove that it's going to be safe. Because if something bad happens to Elon, to Blue Origin, to ISRO, to any of these countries trying to launch humans into space, we run the risk of setting things way back, right? And that's what we don't want to have. We want to be safe going forward. We want to be smart, because it is dangerous, it's difficult, and it costs a lot of dollars.
All right, great speaking to both of you. Thanks very much for being with us and sharing your thoughts on, on the Indian space program, Shubhanshu Shukla at the International Space Station, and a lot more. Thank you very much indeed. At this stage, Neil deGrasse Tyson, the American astrophysicist and writer. Mr. Tyson, thanks so much for being with us. We are
congratulations.
An emotional people, we Indians, and we get a bit emotional, sometimes too emotional. But it is a big moment. You know, it's a moment of pride to see one of our countrymen up at the International Space Station. It's taken far too long. You know about our space ambitions. So could you reflect on what this means for a country with a developing space program?
Yeah, I can tell you without hesitation that an astronaut representing a country upon returning to the country is a hero. Let's just put it out there. They're a hero. People will line up to take photos with them, and it's the way I joke about it and I say, no one has ever given a parade for a robot, okay? But we do it for people. When one of our own does something heroic, is on an adventure and comes back to talk about it, that's important. And so another way to think about this, we should all look forward to the day where this is no longer interesting because it's happening so often. And when you reach that point, then you can truly declare yourselves to be a spacefaring nation, where it's just, I got another mission going up this week. Cool. We'll find out when they get back, what they've been up to. And I want to say something quick about these images we've been seeing.
Yep.
I just want to remind you, everyone in that scene is weightless.
Yep.
So they could have had fun and had one of them completely upside down, alternating, and they would feel no different. So they all lined up just for the camera. I just want you to know that.
Yeah.
There is no up or down when you are weightless in orbit around the Earth.
I think it's people around the world would have seen images and videos like this for so many years, and the quality of the video just keeps getting better. But I think, Mr. Tyson, the point which I'd like you to reflect on is the fact that there's nothing ordinary or easy or simple about human beings being in space, right? It is incredibly difficult. It was in the 60s, and it is now.
Yeah, so I cannot overstate the fact that at the end of the day, yes, it is rocket science. And the number of scientists and engineers and administrators and way back in there, the funding streams, all of this has to work. And when it doesn't work, it puts lives at risk. And so, fortunately, we've had many steps tested and retested, which has reduced the risk, but the risk is not zero. And astronauts have died, not only on the launch pad, but in space. And so, yes, we should never take any of this for granted. And there's the saying that we say in the United States, maybe other countries say it too. We say Godspeed to the astronauts. And, the very word goodbye came from a time that's a contraction of God be with you, when you left the city walls. And it was very dangerous moving between the cities. So you looked for divine protection where it was most dangerous. Well, when our first astronaut, John Glenn, was in space, 1962, the headline was Godspeed, John Glenn. A dangerous thing to be traveling that fast on an adventure hardly tested by anyone. And so, yes, this emotion is still with us when we see our astronaut heroes take these voyages.
Dr. Neil, this is Pallav Bagla from the NDTV office. Welcome to the broadcast. There were many Godspeed moments for this mission. While they were still on the ground, there were several delays. And when astronaut Peggy Whitson came into the International Space Station, she spoke about the long quarantine. We had several issues. And then as the mission was lifting up, we also had two anxious moments with the fiber in the hatch, and then the wind file not uploading. What do you have to say for that? These were very anxious moments for this particular mission, and a 30-day quarantine? Is that the longest you've ever heard of?
Maybe, but I mean, they're all professional. Remember that. So, and I'd rather, delay the mission than take the risk of not having it ever succeed. So we can be frustrated. What's the delay? Wait, fix the delay. No, take your time fixing the delay, because I don't want to raise the risk of harm that is already inherent in the entire operation. So yes, I think you were very close to this mission, and every little step. Every mission has little things that go wrong. Fortunately, much of the system, and thanks to engineers, have redundancies built in, so that if something goes wrong, there's a backup. Or if this goes wrong, we'll do without that for now, and maybe for the rest of the mission, we'll just compensate in other ways. So well-designed, risky missions will always have these backup scenarios, always in the interest of protecting human life.
Dr. Neil, in November we complete 25 years of continuous human presence at the International Space Station. How exciting is that? And one more follow-up question for you. In 25 years, we've invested billions of dollars of taxpayer money on the International Space Station. Which is 1, 2, or 3 blockbuster research which has emerged from the space station?
Well, so I think the way you need to think about it, well, of the many ways to think about this, for me the most important is not listing the achievements or the scientific research and the results that come from it. You could do that, but I think there are other forces operating. For example, just the national pride of each country that has an astronaut represented on the space station. If I read correctly, each of the Polish astronaut, the Hungarian astronaut, and of course the Indian astronaut is their first time to the space station. And this is very important in the countries for which they are represented. And what I'm getting at is, that space exploration and launches and landings and space stations requires fluency in science, technology, engineering, and math, the STEM fields. If you're a kid wanting to know what should I do when I grow up, and you see this happening in space, it is a force of inspiration that rivals a force of nature unto itself, driving interest in the STEM fields. And the STEM fields are the engines of the future growth economies of the world. So an impact can be measured by other ways beyond just a checklist of activities that have been conducted. You can try to measure the force it has on a culture and on civilization. And I'll tell you this as well, that it's the STEM fields that stand the greatest chance of lifting a nation out of poverty, because this is where economies are born. This is where high-tech industries, quality jobs arrive. And so when I think of space, I see it as a force of inspiration, not as a checklist to see what did you accomplish today.
Dr. Neil, India has a program going up to 2040 for which the government has invested a huge amount of money, which is to land an Indian on the moon by 2040. So the roadmap is quite clear for India. For you, sitting from your perch, that India will soon have its own human space program, an Indian space station, and land an Indian on the moon, and be a developed country by 2047. Does that sound good and exciting to you?
It's always good to have the goals. When President Kennedy said, we will land a man on the moon before the decade is out, we felt that we said, we don't want to make a liar out of him. Let's go ahead and do this. And by the way, I want to add to what you said. So it's not just an Indian space station and an Indian landing on the moon. You hinted at it, but I want to drive home. Part of that goal is that it's completely top to bottom Indian-produced technologies. And so it's no longer a commercial venture from another country. It wouldn't be SpaceX or NASA. So you'd be doing it on your own, and that is another source of pride that I know we had when we were going into space, we, the United States. So So I wish India well. I wish them luck. Sometimes you need a little bit of luck as well. But it's less luck and more brilliance in the scientists and engineers that are attempting to make that happen.
Neil deGrasse Tyson, wonderful speaking to you, and I agree entirely. It is Indian engineering at the end of the day, which really has to come of age. In many senses it has, but as you push the boundaries even further, there's a lot more to achieve, and I think we're really making a lot of progress there.